Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, good to have your company tonight on the programme this evening.
The emergency workers who feel left out in the cold. Call handlers join paramedics and ambulance staff on strike. Their message to the government is clear.
We are doing life and death things here, but we're not getting the recognition for it with our pay.
On the Isle of Man, teachers have walked out, but tomorrow's strike day looks like it's off.
We're live courtside for a big night of netball as England take on Jamaica in front of a packed house in Manchester.
The golfers proving that being visually impaired is no handicap on the fairway.
And Levens Hall in Cumbria had half a month's worth of rain yesterday. More rain to come tonight. The full forecast a little later on.
Yeah, lots on the programme for you this evening. But first tonight, and only call an ambulance if it's a life or limb emergency, is a message from paramedics and call handlers as hundreds walked out in a dispute over pay and conditions with little prospect of a resolution.
At picket lines today, strikers told us their stress levels are off the scale and described their frustration at being forced to wait for hours with patients in ambulances outside hospitals because of a lack of beds.
Well, it is the second walkout for ambulance workers, but the first for call handlers. We can cross live to our correspondent Rob Smith. He's at a Duckenfield ambulance station. And Rob, usually it is very busy where you are. What's it like this evening?
There are 45 ambulance workers on the picket line here tonight. A picket line they insist they don't want to be on, a strike they insist they never wanted to be part of. One telling me this wasn't what they signed up for when they joined the NHS. But they also insist it's not just about pay, it's about patient safety for them. Hiring more paramedics is what they want to see. Ambulances dropping off people at A&E in good time. The North West Ambulance Service has been advising the public today to use 999 wisely, only for life and limb-threatening emergencies. And the workers here say they have responded to 2 of those most serious 999 calls, sending people directly from the picket line today. The government has reiterated that it doesn't want to reopen this year's pay deal, go back to those negotiations, while the independent pay review body is looking at next year's pay deal. But the health unions say they no longer want any part of that pay review body while the strikes are going on. They want to negotiate with ministers directly. My colleague Andy Bonner has been on the picket lines across the northwest today.
From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, ambulance workers were making a stand. In St Helens and across the northwest, thousands usually busy helping our region stopped to demand better pay.
When I first started, it was nowhere near as busy as what it is now.
Sam, a mother of 2, has been a paramedic in Manchester for nearly 12 years.
It is really hard and I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. We don't always get breaks. So I get home, I'm exhausted, I'm tired and I'm hungry because we've not eaten.
As a paramedic who presumably joined up to save lives, how does it feel for you to be stood here today not working?
It's really hard because I always think, well, if it was my family member that was ringing for an ambulance, then I'd want that to come immediately and help them. But that's not happening on a day-to-day basis anyway.
Feels really odd actually. It's not something that I'm completely comfortable with. It's not an easy thing to do either, and it's not a decision that anyone's taken lightly. But people are coming to harm's way because they're not receiving emergency care quickly enough, and that's something that we see almost on a daily basis.
Unions say the ball is in the government's court to fix the situation with the NHS. Today the Health Secretary said nothing's off the table in this dispute, but suggested ministers have many considerations.
It's important that we look at these issues and balance with what is affordable for many of your viewers who, for their jobs, face significant cost of living pressures and want to see that balanced against what is provided to the NHS.
Striking workers say their claim for better pay isn't just about them. They want to encourage others to join and stay.
Are you seeing colleagues leaving and going to other jobs?
We're seeing it all the time. We're seeing people that have become paramedics, they've not done 2 years and they've left. When we compare ourselves to other industries, We're massively underpaid, yet we're expected to do a lot more. You know, we are doing life and death things here, but we're not getting the recognition for it with our pay awards.
Across the region, ambulances have been sent out today, but only for the most serious cases. The North West Ambulance Services spend the day urging people to dial 999 only in life-threatening situations. For everyone else, they've suggested alternative transport to A&E.
Yeah, what do you say to those people who are unable to get an ambulance today? It does have a serious knock-on effect on people's real lives.
It does, and that's why we've tried to minimise the disruption as much as possible. Workers have the right to withdraw their labour, and if they're not being treated fairly, if they're not being paid properly, and if the terms and conditions that they're working under is unbearable, then of course they have to be able to do something about it, and that's what they're doing today.
So what you say is no pain, no gain, really?
Unfortunately, that's necessary. That's a necessary part of this process.
Strikers say they hope a deal can be reached before they walk out again. Andy Bonner, ITV News.
Next to the Isle of Man, where thousands of pupils were told to learn at home once again after teachers there walked out in a dispute over pay and conditions.
It is the second time in as many years they've gone on strike, with staff telling us they feel overwhelmed and undervalued.
Well, in the last couple of hours, it's been confirmed tomorrow's strike has been called off. But as Joshua Stokes reports, that hasn't stopped the disruption of today.
At schools across the island, this morning teachers gathered in protest, striking over a dispute in pay and working conditions.
What we are looking for is a restoration of our pay back to 2010. The erosion that's taken place over the last 10 years has left teachers in the region of 70 to 80,000 less well off.
That's the argument the NASUWT have been making for years, but it's something the union now says is putting some teachers in turmoil.
We have members who are having to move out of flats that they rent and move into shared accommodation, and also accessing food banks. I mean, there is real concern.
In November, the government granted a pay rise between 8 and 11.9% to all teachers. The starting salary was also increased to over £36,000. It was a move the union rejected, but something the minister believes is a step towards resolution.
I do feel there is a good package in place, but we are always looking at this. We're always looking at ways to encourage recruitment, and one of the key elements of that was that starting salary of £36,557. That's a significant shift.
This was the first of a two-day strike, but by the end of the afternoon, a phone call from the government changed the plans.
What we've got is a commitment from the department to address some of the specific ways that we discussed with them at the talks on Friday about how we can go about resolving this dispute. But we are in a position now to withdraw the strike action tomorrow.
Progress to end a disruptive day, but with strikes still scheduled for February, a firm resolution is some way off yet. Joshua Stokes, ITV News, Douglas.
Well, in other news today, and detectives have arrested a man on suspicion of the murder of Ellie Edwards in Wirral. The beautician was shot at the Lighthouse pub in Wallasey on Christmas Eve. A 23-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. It brings the number of arrests in connection with Ellie's death to 5.
A park is being planned in memory of Olivia Pratt-Corbell, the 9-year-old who was shot dead at her home in Liverpool. Residents, community groups and the West Derby MP Ian Byrne are among those involved in the tribute. Described as a community green space for all, it would be close to Olivia's home in Dovecot. The trial of a man accused of her murder is due to take place in March.
The North West's newest MP was officially welcomed to Westminster today by Sir Keir Starmer. Former Trafford Council leader Andrew Weston comfortably won the Stretford and Urmston by-election shortly before the Christmas recess, increasing his party's majority with 70% of the votes. The Labour leader said the result was proof that it's time for a general election.
And Andrew, you join us at a very important time, because after 13 years of failure under this government, the British public, the British people are crying out for hope and change. And that's what our party will promise them. That's what our party will deliver for them.
The comedian and actor Johnny Vegas has revealed he's been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The 52-year-old from St Helens says this has helped explain some of his behavioural issues and why he struggles with organisation and doing some basic tasks. There's been a sharp rise in adults seeking tests for ADHD and autism in recent years.
There's still lots to come on the programme, including
the project encouraging visually impaired people to take to the fairway.
And since the 20th of December, we've only had about one dry day so far, and there's more rain to come. That's the bad news. The good news is that over 50% of the UK's electricity is being created by wind power. Full forecast for the rest of the week a little later on.
Well, next, and they are the places people turn to get help with feeding their families. But now food banks in our regions say they need help too. They're warning that soaring demand is putting pressure on their supplies, and they're worried it will get worse.
In the Lake District, COVID and the cost of living is hitting the hospitality industry really hard, and a growing number of people on zero-hour contracts are struggling to stay afloat.
We spoke to 3 different food banks there who all told us the same thing. They desperately need more donations. Fiona Marley-Patterson has this report.
3 food banks, the same story. The biggest rise they've seen in the numbers needing their support. In Kendal, up almost a quarter.
Fuel costs have gone up and children have been at home during the school holidays, so that's obviously had an impact as well, to provide a warm home for children.
We've had people in tears. More and more people are experiencing debt issues. Some of them have lost job or they've got reduced hours. They're trying to pay the bills off and they find that they just don't have enough.
A lot of older people who are needing extra because of needing more heating to keep warm. We do get quite a lot through the schools. Children that have gone in and said they're hungry. So it is done by referral via these agencies. They ring us and then we look at the need.
In Windermere, it's 50% up. They say they're helping Ukrainian and Afghan refugees, but also locals on 0 hours contracts getting less work as the cost of living crisis hits the hospitality industry too.
Local people who are coming through the end of furlough and not getting the hours back at work that they'd hoped. A lot of people live in-house but are still getting the rent taken, and that's leaving them with less to actually live on. I think people are getting scared and frightened for the future. Basically, people are struggling most of the time to keep their head above water.
The government says it's offering more cost of living payments in the spring, but here they say it's wage rises that are needed.
And if you're thinking of donating, this food bank gets lots of cereals, others lots of pasta. Here they say they need more cooking oil and toiletries, but every food bank is different, so they say top tip, call and ask what they need.
But the thing all these food banks share is they wish they weren't needed. Yet it's racing further in the opposite direction, and they expect it to keep rising. Fiona Marley-Patterson, ITV News.
OK, well, here's what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary.
Coming up in the programme, a day of walkouts by paramedics and call handlers across most of England and all of Wales. We'll have the latest on the impact of the ambulance strikes and whether the dispute can be resolved. Well, Boris Johnson allegedly joked to Downing Street staff during a boozy leaving do in lockdown. Prince Harry reacts to the press coverage of his tell-all book on late-night US TV. And the Golden Globes are back, but has the controversy over them gone away? So do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
OK, time for sport now. And can Manchester City join Manchester United in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup? Hello, Mike.
Hello there. Yes, on paper, Gamal, they should, because they're away to the Premier League's bottom club, Southampton, in the quarter-finals. And this is a competition City always take seriously. They've won the League Cup 6 times in the last 9 years. And manager Pep Guardiola wants to do it again this year. His side are still involved in 4 competitions this season. And despite the pressures created by a month's break for the World Cup, he believes he has a squad capable of being competitive on all fronts.
Of course, when everyone is fit, now you have almost everyone fit, 90-20 players, it's easy to do it. When you have less players, fight for the 4, it's almost impossible. But never, since the day one, I said all for competition, I want to try to win all of them, knowing that it's almost, I would say impossible, almost impossible, and no one in the whole history have done it.
Well, the draw for the semi-finals of the Cup takes place immediately after City's match, and Manchester United are in the hat. They beat Charlton Athletic 3-0 at Old Trafford last night. Anthony giving them an early lead before Marcus Rashford continued his goal-scoring streak with 2 more, both in the final minutes of the game. He's now scored in 6 straight matches, and his manager expects him to continue his impressive form.
When he brings himself in position, when the team brings himself in the position in the one-on-ones, so in the box, he will score. And that's what he's doing in this moment. So if he keeps the focus and putting the same effort in, then he will continue scoring.
One other match to show you from last night, and a massive result for Rochdale. They climbed out of the League 2 relegation zone thanks to this 2-1 win away at Bradford City. Ian Henderson scored both of Dale's goals in the second half. Well, next we turn our attention to a big night of netball. Manchester's AO Arena is the venue for the first in a 3-match series between England and Jamaica. It's England's first match in Manchester in 7 years, and a big crowd is expected. Chris Hall is there for us now, and an exciting night ahead, Chris.
Yes, a great atmosphere building inside the AO Arena, because occasions like this don't come around too often. It was 2016, the last time that England played netball here in Manchester, so we're expecting around about 7,000 or 8,000 fans inside the arena tonight. And with me now on a big night for Manchester netball are people from the Manchester Thunder Club. We've got owner Debbie Hallis and head coach Karen Gregg. Karen, plenty of Manchester Thunder players represented in the squad tonight. That must be pleasing for you.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see past and present Manchester Thunder players representing both England A and the Roses tonight. And it's been a long time since we've had an international series at the Manchester Arena. So giving the local girls the opportunity to play in front of their local crowd is exciting. And I can't wait to see Roses head out there against Jamaica later.
Well, yeah, it was 7 years ago since they played here against them, and they beat them 7 years ago. Hopefully a repeat performance. But in the meantime, behind us, we have England A against the Scottish Thistles, very much about the development of the sport. What sort of health is English netball in at the moment?
It's flourishing, it's so exciting. We see throughout our pathways the opportunities that players are getting, and the fact that the Roses are playing tonight, the curtain raisers, England Day at the weekend down at the Copper Box. It's going to be the futures, and to see all those girls that are fighting for squad positions for World Cup come July, getting these opportunities is great for them, and a really exciting prospect that we get to see it as well.
And let's bring Debbie in here as well. Now, Debbie, we mentioned it's been 7 years since England played netball up here. We need to see more of these high-profile matches in this city.
Absolutely, we need to see the growth of netball and working with the franchises. We can also exclusively reveal today that we're bringing a game here to the AO Arena. So the 7th of May, our local derby against Leeds Rhinos will be hosted here. So it's great that we can see the event here, the best part of 9,000-10,000 people here, that hopefully they'll see this level of netball, then they'll buy into our game, and we can really build that crowd around in Manchester.
Absolutely, great to hear that. And what sort of reaction are we expecting for Jade Clark tonight? Just a few weeks after being told she's getting an MBE in the New Year's Honours list, she is the pride of Partington, isn't she?
Yeah, she's an amazing ambassador for netball. I started out with Jade at Club Netball when she was just a 16-year-old coming through. You could see the potential then, and it's amazing. She's reached nearly 200 caps now for a country. She's just an amazing ambassador, and that she's just maintained that level for so long.
Debbie, Karen, what we think? An England win tonight, aren't we?
I'm going to go an England win. Yeah, I think they're fighting back after Commonwealth Games and the Australia Test Series at the back end of last year. So I think England will pinch it, but it's going to be tight.
Brilliant. Fingers crossed. Well, Jamaica, they were Commonwealth Games silver medalists last year, so they're no slouches. England might need the fans here to be at their boisterous Mancunian best.
And I'm sure they will be. Chris in Manchester, thank you very much indeed. That is your sport tonight, but I will see you again tomorrow, guys.
Are you a big fan of the netball?
Love netball. I remember years ago, many years ago, Granada had a netball team and they let the boys in the office play once and we could not hack it.
I know, we beat you. Beat you hands down.
Hands down.
We need to bring it back, a Granada netball team.
We do.
That'd be awesome.
I love it. OK, finally tonight, some describe golf as a good walk spoiled. Not me, because I love golf. But now the sport is being made accessible for people who are blind and partially sighted.
Yeah, the England and Wales Blind Golf Charity wants to encourage more people to enjoy the game. So what do we know about this particular sport? Well, blind golf is a team game involving a visually impaired player and a sighted guide or caddy.
A good working relationship is vital as the golfer is totally reliant on their guide.
Well, the Trafford Golf Centre opened its doors to give people a go, and our reporter Jamal Williams-Thomas was there.
For many visually impaired people, golf may not be the first thing that they would think to try, but members of England and Wales Blind Golf are keen to change that.
You're playing with a stationary ball. You haven't got the worry about the ball hitting you. You can play easily. And it's a game where you can play with a partner who can help you by sighting the ball for you.
For Steve, the sport has become a family affair. His wife Sally volunteers as a guide, meaning golf has become something they can enjoy together.
To be a guide, you don't need any golfing knowledge at all. As Steve says, you're a pair, you're a team, you learn from each other. So I've only been guiding for Steve for a year. We've had a little bit of success this year, and we're still married, so that's all good.
There are around 60 blind and visually impaired golf players registered across the country, but England and Wales Blind Golf are keen for more members, and events like this today are just one way they are trying to pique interest in the sport.
Now turn the hips and hold that position for me. Into this position here, keep it there.
I've only done crazy golf before, and I hit the ball twice I think, and just wanted to keep going at it, you know.
I've enjoyed today, in fact so much so I'm going to become a member of England Wales Blind Golf, definitely.
You've won a prize today?
Oh yeah, the longest drive prize. It was a dinosaur.
It's not just about playing golf, it's about the social awareness that it brings to visually impairment and disability. It creates a great mental strength. I think, you know, you've got people, volunteers coming out who are not visually impaired working with them, so they're getting out, they're mixing. It changes our lives and it will change other people's lives the more involved they get with it.
Across the northwest there are more than 200,000 people living with sight loss, with that number expected to increase over the next 12 months. England and Wales Blind Golf hope sessions like this will help build confidence and show that the sport is for everyone. Jamal Williams-Thomas, ITV News, Trafford.
Yeah, let's get more people playing the sport.
Brilliant swings there. Great stuff.
How did Mr Wilcox fare as your caddy?
Oh, terrible. It's a wonder we're still married. Here's the weather with Kerry.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, very good evening to you. Unfortunately, the very unsettled conditions continue across the northwest over the next few days. Despite that beautiful shot taken in Macclesfield, a big thank you to Brian McCann for sharing, but also fairly blustery and bleak already out towards the coast. Only going to get worse as we head through the next 48 hours or so. But in between, we have seen pockets of blue sky and sunshine across the region today. But it remains unsettled with those strong winds dominating the weather story. Areas of rain, but yes, in between clear spells and showers. This was the scene today. Some bright spells to begin, but then that system pushing its way in from the west, and then this clump of cloud out to the west, now migrating its way eastwards during the course of the night. So a very wet spell for the middle part of the night before pushing eastwards into the early hours, and towards dawn leaving a lot of cloud around, misty, murky, damp conditions. Despite that, still fairly chilly, rural lows down into the low single figures. As we head into tomorrow, 8:23 and 4:16 are your sun times. Quite a cloudy, damp, misty, murky start tomorrow. As we head through the day, more of a mix of showers, which could be heavy, and sunshine in between. But all the while, especially towards the evening, those winds gathering strength, becoming gale force out towards the Irish Sea and for the Isle of Man by the time we reach tomorrow evening, and mild again into double figures. The average is around 7. As we head towards tomorrow night, gale force winds accompanied by showery conditions pushing in from the northwest, and then a line of showers for Friday either side. Fresher conditions and blustery conditions then into the weekend, gradually turning colder by the end.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Tomorrow, as long as Elaine is still married, we'll be chatting to the Northwest Stars, getting ready to compete for the Dancing on Ice trophy.
Last year, remember, it was Bez who stole the show. Would you do it?
Absolutely not. Never.
Too cold.
Too cold.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.